Holy priests use the power of the light and can even heal from beyond the grave to keep you guys alive. Let's look then in the War Within Season 1 how we are going to play as a holy priest. And I must say this is going to be a video that is fine for both beginners and veterans alike. I will be explaining quite a lot in here to make it beginner friendly, but also showing you everything you need to know so that if you are a veteran, you are going to be absolutely fine for this and get all the info you need as well. Let's jump straight into it then, starting off with what stat priorities we're going to want. So as a priest, our main stat is going to be intellect. And the way we get this is by getting a higher and higher eye level of gear. Basically, do higher content, get better gear, you get more intellect. Here on the screen is the general secondary stat priority you want to follow. However, with that being said, you only really want to worry about that if you're looking at two items that are the same eye level. And considering it's the first season, we're going to be upgrading our gear so fast. Generally, just concentrate on getting a higher eye level and more intellect and you will be fine. After that, though, we do have our secondary stats, where versatility, increasing your damage and healing done, while also simultaneously reducing damage taken. And it's a really great all-round stat. Mastery is an interesting one. For holy priests, it's called Echo of Light, and every spec and class has a different one. For us then, Echo of Light means that our direct healing spells will heal for an additional amount over a few seconds. The more mastery we have, the more healing that Echo of Light will do. Haste increases our attack speed and casting speed. Let's take Flash Heal here. The more haste I have, the quicker I'm going to be casting that spell. Critical Strike increases the effectiveness of attacks and heals. While we're here then, and we are looking at the gear, let's just have a look at what our set bonus in Season 1 of the War Within does. So the 2 set here, Serendipity, is 10% more effective, and the 4 set, Heal, Flash Heal, and Prayer of Healing have a 50% chance to cast again at a lower effectiveness, effectively giving us a chance to duplicate some of our spells and healing. Now, like I said, this is going to be beginner friendly. If you don't know what these spells are, don't worry, I'm going to be showing them all through with you shortly in this video and how we're going to play the class. So next up, we are going to talk about the utilities and some of the defensives that we have available to us as a priest. The ones I am going to be showing you are what I consider the most important ones. You could talent into other ones, etc. And there are bits and bobs that I may not talk through, but these are the ones that you really should know about going into the War Within. On the left-hand side of this action bar is things that you're doing to your enemy. And on the right-hand action bar, this is stuff that is impacting us and our allies. So starting off on the left then, we've got Psychic Scream here, which is basically going to fear our enemies and make them run away. We also have Mind Control, controlling a mind of up to one level above ours for 30 seconds. So if we're level 80, we can mind control to level 81. Does not work versus demonic, undead, or mechanical beings. We can mind control them in really niche scenarios. This is going to be really, really useful for you. And then going on to the right-hand side, we've got over here, Purify, or sorry, should I Dispel Magic and Purify Disease. This will remove a disease and or a magic effect on your allies. We also have Leap of Faith, which will pull your allies to you. Let's say they are standing in something, something's about to hit them. You can basically just pull them to safety. We have Power Word Fortitude, increasing our allies' health for an hour. This will work on us. We can cast it on people in the wild. We can cast it on our party and all raid members. Now, when you do use it on yourself, if you are in a party in a raid, it will cast it on everyone. We have Angelic Feathers, where you can place an angelic feather on the ground and you or any ally that steps over it will get a short speed boost with 3 charges of that. You can also make macros so that it will automatically place it at your feet and things like that. I do have a huge list of macros that I use on my Patreon account. Do sign up there if you would like to see those. And then on the bottom row, we've got Vampiric Embrace, filling you with the Embrace of Shadow Energy, causing you to heal a nearby ally for 50% of any single target shadow damage you deal. Just a great way of getting some healing back out of the damage we're going to be doing anyway. Desperate Prayer, really simply, is going to heal us for 33% of our maximum health over 10 seconds. So it's going to increase your maximum health by that for 10 seconds, but also heal you instantly for that. Lastly, we have Mass Dispel. Now, you can see here we've got Dispel Magic, and that'll work on obviously one person who we target on, but Master Spell is going to dispel effects in this huge area from up to 5 friendly targets, which is phenomenal. Let's say that all of the party you're in a Mythic Plus dungeon or PvP, Battleground, wherever you are, let's say that they all get afflicted by something. Well, you can just target this over them, and you can just take it off 5 people rather than just one, which is literally insane. And those are the main sort of defensives and utilities that we have available to us as a priest in Season 1 of The War Within. So for the actual rotation, we are going to be using, it's quite interesting and very flexible as a holy priest. There's a few things you first want to do when you go into combat or before going into combat. One is, of course, putting Power Word Fortitude on you and your allies to increase your stamina, but also get your Prayer of Mending out and renew everyone up. Prayer of Mending is going to jump around, healing everyone when they receive damage, and Renew is just an easy, hot, otherwise known as heal over time, that we can preemptively put on our team before the gates even open. Now, once we're actually just doing our core healing, Power Word Shield, even in Holy, is not to be underestimated. It's absorbing damage before it's even happened, if you will, so it can be a really formidable way to actually, heal before healing is needed. Prayer of Mending should always be used on cooldown in PvP, and Renew, again, is a great heal over time that we can utilize. We also have our holy words, Serenity and Sanctify. Now, Serenity is a fantastic single target heal, and we have 2 charges of it. And specifically, its cooldown will also be reduced when we use Flash Heal or Heal. Flash Heal being a quick and inefficient single target heal, and Heal being a slower one. Only really use Heal if you're really quite safe and your teammates are not in risk of dying. You will notice this talent here, Surge of Light, where your Flash Heal will be instant. So if you see that proc, know that you've got an instant one available. And another great heal we have is Power Word Life. A word of holy power that heals the target for a large amount, but it's only usable if the target is below 35% health, meaning it is fantastic if they are in danger. Sanctify can also be fantastic, healing everyone in a selective area. But, depending on the movement, depending on the setup and where people are, often it can be that Serenity is going to be the choice for power words. However, this isn't a use this or this. You have 2 stacks of these and two stacks of Sanctify. So, you can use them both at the same time, if you will. Then we have some really big cooldowns here, Apotheosis and Divine Hymn. Apotheosis is amazing in PvP. Gain a charge of your holy words, so the ones I've just spoken about, and enter a pure holy form for 20 seconds, increasing the cooldown reductions to your holy words by 300% and reducing their cost. Meaning, if I use Serenity, and then I use a Flash Heal, look how massive, wow, immediately it's instant. And then I use a Flash Heal, and it's off. What you can do is wait until you get the proc from your Surge of Light, where your next Flash Heal is instant, and then use Apotheosis, meaning that you can use your Serenity, then you use an instant Flash Heal, and can immediately use Serenity again, just like that, without even having to wait for the cast time of Flash Heal. So you can time those together really, really well to get absolutely massive healing out, especially if the opposite team is trying to burst your teammates down. Divine Hymn, I wouldn't say is... Well, it's not my favourite in PvP. It can be, depending on who you're up against, but as you can see here, you kind of have to stand still and channel it to do any healing, meaning it does leave you in quite a vulnerable state, so do be careful when you are using this. Another few that we have is Symbol of Hope. This is absolutely fantastic as well. You do have to channel it, but it's not that long. Bolster the morale of raid members within 46 yards. They each recover 30 seconds of cooldowns of their major defensive ability and gain some missing mana. The mana side isn't really that important in PvP, only really for the healer, which is you, so thumbs up if you're running out of mana. However, the fact that they're actually going to get rid of some cooldown on their major defensive is huge. That is really not to be underestimated. Speaking of things we underestimate in PvP is Fade. Fade out, removing all of your threat and reducing enemies' attack range against you. The attack range can be useful against ranged players. They have to come in a bit closer. But there is something else that people often forget, and that is the translucent image talent, where Fade reduces damage you take by 10%. And I feel like people always forget this exists, meaning Fade is actually technically a bit of a defensive in itself as well. We have Guardian Spirit here, which is amazing. I feel like I'm saying everything's amazing, but it is. Call upon a Guardian Spirit to watch over the friendly target, increasing healing received by 60%. Great if someone's bursting them. And if the target would die, it will instead sacrifice itself, and the target will be put back to 40% health. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card, as I like to call it. And again, if people are struggling, we have Void Shift, where you can swap health percentages between you and an ally, where it's increasing the lower health percentage of the two to 25% if below that amount. So it kind of evens out you and an ally's health, meaning if they're in danger, you can sort of take that burden off a bit. Something that I find really interesting PvP is Lightwell. It's not often used elsewhere. Creates a holy Lightwell, and every 1 second, the Lightwell will attempt to heal a nearby party or raid member that is lower than 50% health for a large amount and apply a renew to them for 6 seconds. And it will last for 2 minutes or until it heals 15 times. The cooldown is also reduced when you use your holy words. Now, the cool thing about Lightwell is it's passive, meaning if you get incapacitated and can't heal, Lightwell can be healing on your behalf while your allies are trying to get you out of whatever sticky situation has befallen you from the opposite team, which is really, really useful and annoying to the other team that you're up against. Other utilities we have is Shadow Fiend. It's going to give you some mana every time it attacks, but it can do a fair amount of damage and kind of annoy the other team members as well. We also have Power Infusion, which increases your haste by 20%, which, as you can see, is massive. Now, the interesting thing about that is that it grants you the exact same effect if you cast it on an ally. So never cast it on yourself, because only you will get the effect. Cast it on an ally, and you and the ally will get the effect. We also have another holy word, Chastise, here. Chastise is the target for holy damage and stuns them for 4 seconds. Whenever you use the Smite ability, that will also help reset the cooldown on Chastise. If you do want to do some damage, and I'm not saying you should be overhealing, but sometimes you may feel comfortable enough that you can do damage and there isn't healing needed, you can use your Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, but be careful with it because it has some backlash damage, but it damage is increased by 150% if they're under 20% health, and it can help finish off your enemy. And then there's also, where is it? I'm looking for Smite. Here it is, Smite, which is basically just a basic single target damage ability that will help reduce the cooldown on your Chastise. The last few things that we haven't mentioned really is only Purify and Mass Dispel, where Mass Dispel will dispel beneficial and negative effects from your enemies and allies alike, which is absolutely amazing. And that generally is how we're going to be healing in PvP. So we've got our main kind of healing. Again, don't overlook things like Powered Shield. They are actually a lot better in PvP than they are in PvE. Apotheosis is amazing. Power Infusion, use that on an ally. Don't underestimate Lightwell either. It can be amazing. We really do have an amazing set of cooldowns available to us as a Holy Priest. And then for the talents that we are going with, it is going to be Archon. So in this build, we are going with the Archon talent for hero priests, holy priests. Oh my god. It basically revolves around a lot of our Halo. Casting Halo, so we get Power Surge. Casting Halo also causes you to create a Halo around you at 100% effectiveness every 5 seconds for 10 seconds. Additionally, the radius of Halo is increased. Your healing done is increased, while Apotheosis is active for 20 seconds after you cast Holy Word Salvation. Then I like to go for Shock Pulse. Halo damage reduces enemy movement speed, stacking up to 5 times, which is fantastic. You can then go 2 ways: energy compression, where Halo damage and healing is increased, or sustained potency. Creating a Halo extends the duration of Apotheosis. If Apotheosis is not active, up to 6 seconds are stored for the next time you do, which is fantastic. You don't have to worry too much about that then. Resonant Energy, allies healed by your Halo receive 2% increased healing from you, and that can stack as well. Word of Supremacy, where Powerful Fortitude is an additional 5% stamina. Concentrated Infusion, Power Infusion effects are granting you an additional 10% haste. Creating a Halo grants Surge of Light, so another free spell. Empowered Surges increases the healing done by flash heals affected by Surge Light by 30%. So you get free ones, and then the actual flash heals you do with them are then empowered even more. We've got Energy Cycle. Consuming Surge of Light reduces the cooldown of Sanctify, which I love. This is fantastic at getting us through those Sanctify casts. And then lastly, Divine Halo. Halo now centers around you and returns to you after it reaches its maximum distance, like a boomerang, healing allies and damaging enemies each time it passes through them, which is great. The only issue I see with this is if you want to use Archon in Mythic Plus. Anything else like raiding, arena, PvP, it's going to be fine. But in Mythic Plus, I'm like, oh my god, Archon is scary, because the Halo, I've played with Halo in Mythic Plus before in previous expansions, and let me tell you, like, it is pulling things left, right, and center. But unless you're, if you're not doing that, then you're all good, pretty much. Archon is really, really nice, and I've always found Halo a bit lackluster. So it's a really cool way to build this around it. I really do like it. For the consumables in the War Within, things have changed a bit, including the enchants. So first up, you now have Nerubian Gem Weavers. This is how you add sockets from the Great Vault each week to your gear, and we can do this on the head, wrist, and waist. Another thing that's changed is we can now have an extra 2 sockets on our rings and neck, so we can add these with magnificent jeweler settings. You can see here 2 on the neck and 2 on each ring. Looking at the actual enchants we're going to use, we've got Chant of Winged Grace, giving avoidance and minus fall damage percentage on the cloak. The chest is Crystalline Radiance, giving intellect. Armored Avoidance on the wrist, giving avoidance. Sunset Spellthread gives intellect and stamina on the legs. Scout's March gives movement speed. It's 250, I think. And then haste. Or you could put haste on here, you could put crit on here. Depends what you really need. I would say to go to haste on the ring enchants. But if you're at a very high eye level and you're really starting to min-max and, simulate your character, etc., then maybe actually a secondary stat would be better. So I'll leave that one up to you. For the, what are they called? Consumables. It's too early for this, guys. I've finished at like 8 a.m. or something, or 7 a.m. Flask of Tempered Aggression, Feast of the Divine Day, that's just going to purely add intellect. You can also go for Tempered Versatility. That's probably the best all-round one for everyone, actually. Mana Potion, if you need it, if you're healing in as a priest. Otherwise, use the Tempered Potion if you're in Shadow. Algari Healing Potion is obviously a healing potion. Algari Mana Oil is something you can actually now add on your weapon to add crit and haste. Crystallized Augment Rune to add a little bit of intellect. And then looking at the Culminating Blasphemite, this is really interesting. So it's going to add intellect, but it's also going to add a 0.15% critical effect to your character if you use different gems, and you want to use an emerald, an onyx, a sapphire, and a ruby. Again, sim your character to see which ones would be most preferential, or just go with what I've got here. And basically that means then that each of these different colors is going to give 0.15 effect on your crits. So if you only have rubies, it's only going to give 0.15. But if you have one of each color, it's actually going to give up to 0.60% effect on critical strikes. Don't use amber though, just use these 4 colors that I have shown you here. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope it was really useful for you in The War Within Season 1, whether it was for Mythic Plus or raiding. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to help. My Patreon is in the description below, and that is where you can find my LVUI profiles, which I'll show you in a second. And also, I'm putting together a huge macro list for every single spec that's going to be really useful for you in The War Within as well. I am doing all classes and specs for The War Within, so if you are new to the channel, then please do click this playlist here to check out what else I have, which is all of them. There will also be PvP guides on this channel as well for War Within Season 1, so make sure to look out for that. This here is the UI that I was referring to. As you can see, we've got target frames, etc., left and right, and raid frames go in the middle here, and then weak auras in the middle with an action bar down here. Chat is behind where my camera is. Minimap and details, etc., are here on the right. All of the plater profiles, the voodoo, the LVY, etc., details profile has all been made by me. And again, you can get this on my Patreon should you like it.